because of some corporeal defects or for persons who have failed to achieve prosperity in family life. The fifth point is, in histories like the Mahabharata, of course, there are topics on transcendental subjects along with material topics. The Bhagavad Gita is there in the Mahabharata. The whole idea of the Mahabharata culminates in the ultimate instructions of Bhagavad Gita, that one should relinquish all other engagements and one should engage oneself solely and fully in surrendering unto the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. The men with materialistic tendencies are more attracted to politics, economics, and philanthropic activities mentioned in the Mahabharata than to the principal topic, namely Bhagavad Gita. This compromising spirit of Vyasadeva is directly condemned by Narada Muni, who advises him to directly proclaim that the prime necessity of human life is to realize one's eternal relation with the Lord and thus surrender unto him. And then my final point I picked is a patient suffering from a particular type of malady is almost always inclined to accept eatables which are forbidden for him. The expert physician does not make any compromise with the patient by allowing him to take partially what he should not at all take. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that a man attached to fruity work should not be discouraged from his occupation, for gradually he may be elevated to the position of self-realization. So these are the major points I picked from the purport. But due to the lack of time, we cannot discuss all these points. So therefore, I have picked 2 points out of the 6 for our discussion. And the points I picked are: the human form of life is a chance to get out of the clutches of the illusory matter, and the Vedas are meant to give guidance for going back home, back to Godhead. And so under the circumstances, Srila Vyasadeva, as the author of the Vedic literatures, should not have encouraged sense enjoyment in some form or the other, as this will serve as a barrier for spiritual advancement. So Narada is quite heavy in condemning his disciple Srila Vyasadeva. As we are all aware, Srila Vyasadeva is a compiler of the Vedic literatures. Srila Vyasadeva is the son of Parasara Muni. Parasara Muni is also a very learned sage, very advanced sage. And therefore, Vyasadeva he comes from a very exalted family heritage. His father is very exalted sage, and Vyasadeva himself is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, he is a very exalted person, and that is why the job of compiling the Vedic literature is just right. He's the right person to compile the Vedic literatures. Of course, it is said in the scriptures that there are many Vyasadevas. In every millennium, in every Satya Yuga, there are different Vyasadevas. In fact, the scripture names 34 different Vyasadevas. Even Sukracharya, the spiritual master of the demons, he was also one time a Vyasadeva. And as we know, Aswatthama is going to be the next Vyasadeva. It is mentioned that because he released the Brahmastra weapon to kill Parikshit Maharaj in the womb of his mother Uttara, Krishna cursed him. Krishna cursed Aswatthama that he will roam on earth for thousands of years and nobody is going to associate with him. He'll be isolated. He would suffer from hunger and thirst. He will suffer from different kinds of diseases so that he can get purified. So by performing this austerity from Dwarapa Yuga through Kali Yuga till the next Satya Yuga, he will be purified. And that will allow him to become the next Vyasadeva. So, to occupy the position of Vyasadeva is a very exalted position. To be the author of the Vedic scriptures is a very exalted position. And Srila Vyasadeva, this particular Vyasadeva, is a special Vyasadeva because he is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Other Vyasadevas are Jiva Tattvas. They are part of Jiva Tattva. But this one is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, he should have known better that because the conditioned souls are already attached to material and sense enjoyment, to encourage them in any way will be disastrous because they are already accustomed to this sense gratification. So that is why Srila Narada Muni is so heavy on him. So it is said that the more we are given, the more it is expected from us. If we are given a lot of opportunities, it is expected from us to do more. The more elevated a person is, the more it is expected from him to give others. The more learned a person is, the more he's supposed to educate others. The more wealthy a person is, the more he should extend his wealth to help others. So the more you are given, the more that is expected from you. So Srila Vyasadeva, having come from such a high parentage, his father being a great sage Parasara Muni, and Vyasadeva himself being an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and supposed to have known what is best for the conditioned souls of this world. Therefore, Narada Muni, who is his spiritual master, is chastising him very heavily. So, According to Vedic tradition, there are different kinds of inclinations. It is said that one class of human beings are inclined to sense gratification, material sense enjoyment. That is called bhukti. So therefore, Srila Vyasadeva provided the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. Then there is another class of people who are interested in knowledge. They are the Gyanis, and their ultimate goal is mukti, liberation, and personal liberation. So Srila Vyasadeva, he provided the Jnana Kand for them. And then we have another class of people who are interested in rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the process of bhakti. And for them, Srila Vyasadeva gave them the Upasana Kanda. Upasana Kanda. So these different people, out of these three different people, the Upasana Kanda is considered the best. The process by which one can render service to Krishna, the process by which one can be reinstated in his original constitutional position, is said to be the best. Lower than this is a Jnana Kand, and lower than that is the Karma Kanda. So Narada is saying that there was no need for these two other sections, because generally people are attached to bhukti and mukti. In fact, he calls the verse in the second verse. He says that, are you satisfied with identifying with the body and mind? Are you satisfied with identifying with the body and mind? So the Karma Kanda, which is meant for bhukti, is for satisfying the desires of the body. And the Jnana Kanda, which is for mental speculators, for Jnanis, for monists, it is meant for satisfying the mind. So Srila Vyasadeva, Narada Muni is asking Vyasadeva that you have written a scripture for the bhuktis and the scriptures for the muktis. This is for the satisfaction of the body and the mind. In other words, you are identifying the self with the body and the mind. And he said that because of that, Srila Vyasadeva himself was despondent. He was unhappy. Because after writing all these voluminous Vedic scriptures, Srila Vyasadeva wasn't happy. It was in this despondent situation, unhappy situation, that Narada Muni appeared to advise him. So the goal of life is not to remain in this material world, pursue karma kanda, and be happy. No. Neither is the goal of life is to pursue jnana kanda, achieve impersonal liberation. No. The goal of life is to engage in Krishna consciousness, is to engage in bhakti. Savayam pumsha paro dharmo yato bhakti adoksaje. Adoksaje bhakti. Service for the pleasure of adoksaja. Another name of Krishna is adoksaja. So, directing the attention of the living entity to karma kanda or jnana kanda will actually not lead the living entity to achieving the goal of life. Because the goal of life is clearly defined. Ya prapya manusham loke mukti dwaram apavritam. The doors of liberation, the doors of freedom, the process by which one can return to the spiritual world and live with Krishna, live with the Supreme Lord in a spiritual kingdom is widely open as soon as one achieves this human form of life. So therefore, these other kandas that Srila Vyasadeva offered in the Vedic literatures are therefore condemned by Narada Muni, because it would further entangle the living entity. It will further complicate the life of the living entity. So therefore, Narada is asking Vyasadeva, Paritushyate sarira atma manasha ivava. Are you satisfied simply by identifying the body or the mind as the object of self-realization? By giving the karma kanda and jnana kanda, one is identifying the self with the body and with the mind, because these two sections of the Vedas, of Vedic literature, takes care of the body and the mind. The soul and its eternal activity, bhakti, is not emphasized. So therefore, Narada Muni, he advised Srila Vyasadeva that if you want to be happy, if you want nourishment, then you must directly describe the activities of Krishna, the activities that would engage this Atma, the soul, the activity that would nourish the soul, because what you have described in the Karma Kanda section and Jnana Kanda section does not directly nourish the soul. But if you describe the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that will directly nourish the soul. So it is said, accepting the order of Narada Muni, his spiritual master, Srila Vyasadeva engaged himself in austerities. He engaged himself in meditation. And at the maturity of his spiritual life, he then wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Srimad Bhagavatam that we have, that we are studying every day, is actually the outcome of Srila Vyasadeva's spiritual maturity. And that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls it the Paramahamsa Samhita, the scripture for Paramahamsas, because Srila Vyasadeva is not an ordinary person. And even on top of that, he has to perform tapasya, he has to perform meditation to achieve a certain height in spiritual realization before he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is considered a very exalted scripture. Actually, it is said to be the natural commentary of the Vedanta Sutras. After Srila Vyasadeva compiled the various scriptures, he wrote a commentary on the various scriptures, and that is called the Vedanta Sutras. The Vedanta Sutras mainly deals with the Upanishads. And these Upanishads, there are many of them, but out of the hundreds of them, at 108 are considered principal Upanishads. So the Vedanta Sutra identifies two paths: Pravritti Marga and Nirvritti Marga. Pravritti Marga means the path of material sense gratification. And Nirvritti Marga means the path of renunciation. Once the living entity appears in the material world, once the living entity has a material body, gains material body, he becomes attached to the body. And he naturally wants to gratify the senses of the body. So the whole material atmosphere is an environment of sense gratification. That is natural. But such activity simply perpetuates the living entity's journey in this world. In other words, so long as we engage in this sense gratification, we cannot get out. So therefore, the scripture recommends Nirvritti Marga. In fact, there is an interesting story in one of the Upanishads about Nachiketa. Nachiketa is a son of a great sage, a great Brahmana. So this great Brahmana, he performed a yajna, and at the end of the yajna, he has to award the priest some gifts. As natural, when the priests perform yajna, we have to offer them some gifts. Otherwise, the yajna is not complete. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that any yagya where there is no offering of gifts to the priests and where there is no distribution of prasadam, such yagyas are incomplete. They're in a mode of ignorance. So, because this Brahmana, he had given all his, whatever he had for the priests, he had given them, but it wasn't sufficient. There wasn't sufficient remuneration for the priest. So his little boy, 5-year-old boy, Nachiketa, was sitting by, and he asked the father, that, dear daddy, now that you don't have enough to give to this priest, are you going to give me as a gift to one of the priests? Which of the priests are you going to give me to as a gift? And it is said that the father became angry. And so he cursed his son. He said, for asking me such a stupid question, I donate you to Yamaraj. In other words, he should die. If you offer somebody to Yamaraj, Yamaraj is the king of death. He's the superintendent of death. So if you are offered to Yamaraj, it means you are dead. So Nachiketa, as soon as the father pronounced that he is given to Yamaraj, he left the father's place, and somehow or the other, he appeared in Yamaraj Loka. When he arrived in Yamaraj Loka, Samyapuri, Yamaraj was absent. Yamaraj had gone on some assignment somewhere, and for 3 days, Yamaraj was not available. So this little boy, 5-year-old boy, he stood at the gate of Yamaraj for 3 days without food, without anything. He was standing there. Finally, Yamaraj arrived and asked the boy that, what are you standing here for? What are you waiting here for? And he said, my father have cursed me that I should come to you. And so I've come. And so I said, okay, you have been standing here for 3 days. I want to give you 3 boons. Each of the days that you stood here, I will give you a boon for it. So you ask for your 3 boons. And the boy said, first, I want to go back to my father. And I want the boon that when I go back to my father should give up his anger and he should accept me back as his son. And Yamaraj said, Tatastu, let it be so. And they said, what is your second boon? He said, I've observed that my father is performing so many sacrifices, but he is still in a conditioned state of life. Can you show me one yagya that I can perform and become liberated? By that yagya, I don't have to take birth again. And Yamaraj said, Tatastu, take it. He gave it to him. And then the third boon, Nachiketa said that I want knowledge. I want knowledge beyond liberation. When the soul is liberated from this material world, when the soul is no more in the physical, does he have a separate existence? Or does he merge with the effulgence of Brahman Jyoti? And if the soul has a separate existence, what does the soul do thereafter? I want this knowledge. And Yamaraj said, this knowledge is a preserve of very advanced souls. It is not meant for children, so I can't give you. And the boy said, dear Yamaraj, you asked me to ask you 3 boons. I've asked for the 3 boons. You give me 2, and you are saying the third one, I don't qualify for it. If I don't qualify for it, will I ask for it? The mere fact that I've asked for it means that I qualify for it. And Yamaraj said, see, many people have come to my planet. Many people have come for judgment. Many people proud of their knowledge, proud of their wealth, proud of their beauty, proud of their material positions, proud of their birth, proud of so many things. They have come here repeatedly, but none of them has ever asked me this question. But you're a small boy, you're asking me this question. That's why I think you're not qualified. The boy said, well, all these living beings, they might have come to you, but they didn't ask. But for me, I'm asking, and I need that knowledge. So it is said, Yamaraj was compelled to speak the Katha Upanishads to Nachiketa. And Nachiketa became a liberated soul instantly. He came back to his father, and he actually educated his father on performing a yagya that would liberate him, and the knowledge that would take him back home, back to the spiritual world. So this is what is required. How we can get out of this material world and return to the spiritual world. And this is what Narada Muni, who is a Satyavesha incarnation of Bhakti, is proposing by condemning Srila Vyasadeva. Srila Narada Muni, his desire is to liberate everybody from this world to go back to the spiritual world. That is his desire. And so we see in his activity, he's liberating hunters, he's liberating snakes, he's liberating anybody and everyone. He's just eager to liberate everyone. And therefore, he wants that spiritual knowledge that would liberate the living entity from this world to go back to Krishna. That is the desire of the acharyas, like Narada. They want to liberate everyone from this material world and let them go back to the spiritual world, because that is our real position. That's our real life. And so my time is up. If there are some one or two questions we can take, otherwise we call it a day. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. So we'll wait while as devotees raise their hand, then we can call them one by one.
If there are no questions also, time is up. It's only 3 minutes more.
So allow them to digest and think about what to ask. So already we have Sade Prabhu.
Oh, Sade Prabhu is here.
Yes.
I see.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Sri Sahadev.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the wonderful session.
Hare Krishna.
I am hoping and praying.
I think your internet is properly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Well. Okay.
Okay. I was saying, I'm hoping and praying that in the near future, if I should be chastised as harsh as Narada gave to Srila Vyasadeva, I should be able to handle it. Well, my question is, you said Srila Vyasadeva compiled the Bhagavatam after his matured stage in spiritual life.
Yes.
And I am wondering how then, like in Canto 6 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, I don't remember the chapter, but where it talks about the Narayan Kavacha, there are some powerful prayers there where one can recite, and it says, I have enemies and I want to pulverize their eyes. I want to pull their eyes out of their eye socket, which is very contradictory to a version of qualities. So why did Srila Vyasadeva put in such prayers? I know it's not directly his prayers. It's like what's the name? Indra.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Yeah. See, actually, the Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadev's compilation is not the first Bhagavatam. That we must understand. The first Bhagavatam was spoken directly by Krishna. If you go to the Chatusloka, which is found in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Chatusloka or Chatusloki, that is said to be the seed of Srimad Bhagavatam. And those 4 verses were spoken to Brahma. When Brahma achieved success in his austerities, Krishna appeared to Brahma and instructed him the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and then he told Brahma that he should expand this knowledge and distribute it among his disciples. So Brahma expanded on the 4 Chatusloki, and has educated his disciples, including Narada Muni. In fact, it is mentioned that Uddhava learned Srimad Bhagavatam from Brihaspati, a disciple of Brihaspati. So Brihaspati received the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam from a different source, not from Sukadeva Goswami or from Srila Vyasadeva. So the Srimad Bhagavatam has been spoken from the beginning of creation. But what we have now is a compilation. It contains some of the previous aspects of the early Srimad Bhagavatam, and also the realizations of Srila Vyasadeva. And in fact, it's also said that some of the pastimes that I've mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam are also from different millenniums. They are not from this millennium, and even from different planets. So it shouldn't be surprising for us to find prayers like the Narayan Kavacha. The Narayan Kavacha was actually Indra's desire. Indra wanted. The demons were harassing Indra. They had displaced Indra from his planet. And so, and at that time, Indra had offended his spiritual master, Brihaspati. And so they had no spiritual master. And because of that, the demons worshipped their spiritual master, Sukracharya, very nicely. And he guided them, and they defeated the demigods and drove them out on their planets. So they went to see Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma advised that they should take Vishwarup as their guru. And so Indra approached Vishwarup to perform this Narayan Kavacha in order to protect them from the demons. And so that is reported in the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So but the point there is that the Bhagavatam, as we have, is just not what Srila Vyasadeva conceived in his maturity, but it also contains material from even Krishna's time. The Chatusloki that is found in the 2nd canto are those very verses Krishna spoke to Brahma. And then along the line, many more verses have been added. And Srila Vyasadeva also added his own and presented it to his son, Shukadev Goswami. And Shukadev Goswami presented it to Parikshit Maharaj. And in that assembly, Sutta Goswami was present, and he also heard, and he also presented it to the sages of Naim and Serenia. And so that's how this knowledge has come down. So it is coming from different dimensions, from different millenniums, from different ages. All is contained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore, we should be surprised to see different information from different angles. Hare Krishna. Any other comment, question?
Ganga Prasad Prabhu, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Please, Prabhu, unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandava Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Ganga Prasad Prabhu, happy to see you.
Obeisance at your lotus feet, all glories to Guru Angoranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I am very grateful for this class. It's like it's corroborating yesterday's class also. And I've been able to conceive a question. And the question is, yesterday was that there's a lot of concepts that have been given out to people and it's disturbing their mind. And today is also a continuation of that.
Yeah.
So, but it's having definition. Now, in the course of our preaching and practicing Krishna consciousness in West Africa, we have also added so many things that is like a moderation to concentrating on doing pure devotional service.
Yeah.
One is the consultations of astrology and all of this. How do we reconcile this in relationship with the text of today? This is my question.
That is a very heavy question. It's a heavy question that actually Narada Muni will condemn all of us. If Narada Muni is to appear at the moment, he will condemn all of us for encouraging these things, because even yesterday was not spared for giving karma kanda, giving jnana kanda. Narada Muni is not happy, he's condemning him, that we should just offer only pure Krishna consciousness, pure bhakti. That is required because already the living entity is inclined to sense gratification. However, because of our environment, we have to kind of create what is called bridge preaching, because our environment is so affected, so influenced by this kind of mentality that religion means to solve our material problems. That is how religion is perceived. That to be religious means we should demand from God. We should ask everything we need from God. And that is described as Dharma Projita Kaitava, cheating religion. So because of the environment we find ourselves in, and in trying to bring people closer to examine this germ of bhakti, we are creating bridges, we are creating avenues by which people can come close to us. Of course, the danger is also there, that people will just take advantage of this and go away. They will not go, though our intention is to attract them to bhakti. But in most cases, they will just be attracted to the astrology, to the palmistry, to the yagyas, to all the other externals, and they will not accept the pure bhakti. So that is why I said if Narada is to appear now, he will condemn all of us. But if we are successful in getting people to accept bhakti through these processes of astrology, palmistry, and whatnot, then we can say we have achieved our goal. And in that sense, Narada will not be angry with us if we are able to use these means to bring people to practice Krishna consciousness. Then that will be celebrated. But if people do not become devotees at the end, then Narada Muni will not be happy with us. And so in that sense, it would have been better to just introduce pure Krishna consciousness from the beginning, and those who want to take it, let them take it. Like, in fact, in the beginning of our preaching, there wasn't anything like palmistry, there wasn't anything like astrology, there wasn't anything like yagyas. All these were not there in the beginning. We're just giving pure Krishna consciousness. Books, that's it. And in fact, we are able to make a lot of devotees. So it's something we have to consider very seriously, whether we should continue with it or we should end it and go back to the pure preaching and just let those who want to take it, let them take it. And those who don't want to take it, let them go somewhere else. But it is done with a good intention. The intention was to create bridges by which we can attract people, because the environment in which we find ourselves is permeated by such a mentality. That is my take for this. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. So we have no more hands up.
All right, so thank you for the day. We see you at
So-
another time.
Saturday, Prabhu just raised his hand. Saturday, Prabhu want to ask more questions.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I have a question about Ganga Prasad Prabhu's question.
Okay.
I remember very well a long time ago in Accra, we went out on Harinam, and in the morning after the Mangarati, I announced the Harinam results.
Yeah.
And Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was there in our presence. And he became so serious because we collected big Lakshmi and we were only able to distribute just one magazine. I remember this very well because that was like my first time seeing Gurudev angry, if I should say so. But he did not condemn it. He did not condemn that we only went and sold incense, oils, and books. And I'm sure, Srivas Prabhu, you may remember at a point, Gurudev banned us selling this paraphernalia outside.
Yeah.
But he did not outright ban it. He said, if anybody wants it, we should direct that person to come to the temple.
Yeah.
Because per Krishna's own statement, there are 4 classes of men who approach him. And there are some that will approach him not because they want to serve him, but they just need some help.
Mm.
But like he's saying, if at the end of it, if we are unable to help the person surrender to Krishna, then we may consider it as a failure. But I think, I may be wrong, this is just my opinion, but I think like banning it outright, I don't think it's okay, because it's not just in West Africa. In India, we also have devotees who also do astrology. In America, we have devotees who do astrology, in UK, wherever. The only problem or difference I may say is probably we step outside the Vedic tradition and maybe do other things. So, in your opinion, since you have more experience in West Africa, what do you suggest? What do you think that as devotees we need to do in order to not completely abolish it, but like Ganga Prasad Prabhu was saying, we should not also just concentrate on it more than the real pure preaching? Hare Krishna.
Well, as my opinion is that we should give Krishna consciousness to people. That is the goal. The goal of this movement, the mission of Srila Prabhupada, is to give Krishna to everyone. That is a real thing. And from the point of this verse, the real mission is to connect people to Krishna. So if we want to use palmistry, I also mentioned that they are considered bridges. We are building bridges by which people can walk over to Krishna consciousness, by which people can connect to Krishna consciousness. So if our minds is to somehow or the other inject Krishna consciousness into all these people who may come to us for one thing or the other, if that is our aim, and we are able to do that, then there is nothing wrong. Yeah. But if we fail, as in some cases, if not in most cases, if we fail, we make people feel that we are mystics. We make people feel that we are something else instead of Krishna Bhaktas. And we don't even talk about Krishna. There are some devotees, they don't even talk about Krishna at all. That makes it dangerous because, and that's where Narada Muni becomes angry. So if the purpose of the goal is to give Krishna consciousness, the goal is to somehow or the other get people to connect with Krishna, and we achieve it, wonderful. We don't need to condemn it or ban it. But if it is not achieving that goal, then we have no choice but to re-examine the whole process and see what should be done. Of course, the other aspect also is when people purchase things like incense and oils and things, their monies are supposed to be utilized for Krishna. And if their monies are utilized for the service of the Lord, they also benefit. So if such monies are coming for the service of the Lord, then still they will benefit somehow or the other. But if the funds are not coming to Krishna, it's not coming to the temple, it's not utilized for Krishna's work, then that is also dangerous also. So we have to examine the situation very carefully and see how we can maximize the use and the benefit of these bridges that we are building to allow more people to take advantage of Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much.
I have a comment, kind of a question also.
Okay, comment.
Yeah. So, like you are one of our most senior devotees in the West Africa, and also you have seen the beginning of the ISKCON in West Africa, and you have seen all these things. You are the question they are asking today. How many devotees have indulged in them, and see, you have seen the end of some people practicing all these things. So, and we have seen that in many cases, many devotees have not been able to use this in Krishna because the most paramount thing in their mind is making money. So, from your own experience, and now we are not. It's not about if they are able to use it. You have seen many people who are doing it, Prabhu. You are very senior. You even a child born from that time till now, from the, some of us, you have started devotion time before we are born. So, a child from that time till now might have grown and mature and even given birth to other children also. So, the in and out of this thing. So, from your own experience, do you think that in our own state or stage or level, have you seen any devotees, let's say 80%, who will be able to use this in making that bridge? So if not, then why can't we just encourage devotees to focus on preaching pure bhakti? So what do you say, Maharaj? Please, you know what I'm trying to say, so you can just.
I understand your question.
Yes.
Definitely, we have seen that there are a lot of failures. And so if you're asking my opinion, I would say that we need to actually address the issue seriously, identify those devotees who are actually using it properly and bringing people to Krishna through that. So we can kind of give some kind of license. It's not everybody who should do it. Special people can do it, and who are doing it for Krishna and bringing people to Krishna. And then the majority of the people should be banned from doing it. But at least those who have proved themselves to be using it for Krishna consciousness, we should encourage those. And those who are just exploiting the system, they should be stopped. That is my opinion.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you. Grace Ganga Prasad wants to ask you a question. His hand is up.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the answer. And my little concern is when I gave class the last time, it was a contending situation.
Okay.
And there's a justification put on this. Prabhu Kavi himself personally asks in this way, householders who are depending on it for their survival, what should be the approach? If you are saying now we have to ban, then we have householders who are thinking this is the only means we can make our livelihood and all of this. What should we do? It's a situation of major concern, and it requires very, very serious introspection and evaluation so that something can be done. But from track records, when I came back from India in 1988, until now, we lost many devotees in Lagos for paraphernalia preaching. And many of them went out of what Krishna consciousness really is. And as of now, you can see the temples have become very empty with few devotees. And we need devotees, we need manpower. So if we are not practicing Krishna consciousness purely, we cannot give it to anybody. That's what Lakshmana said. You cannot give what you don't have. So the situation may be like this, but there's a need for what Prabhu Kavi just said, as with your exalted position of being the pioneer, one of the pioneers and one of the authorities that where decision is made, there's a need to really look out of this. Krishna consciousness outside here is sweet, it's interesting, it's absorbing, but it becomes distasteful in the environment that we have created. So it's a concern. I'm not asking questions, but I'm just saying it's a thing of concern.
It's a concern. So I agree with you. It needs some serious discussion. Yeah. So what we're going to do is, once you've tabled it, I will bring it before our GBC, and then finally maybe we'll bring it up to our regional council, and then we would discuss it, and then we will see the way forward. So I think we are in December now. We're supposed to have one more of our regional council meetings. So therefore, I would discuss with the leadership, and probably we'll add it as one of our agendas for our next meeting, because we have to take care of our householders. At the same time, we must also make sure our preaching is bringing in some result. And that means presenting pure Krishna consciousness in order to bring in the needed result. So we'll look at it seriously. Thank you very much for the consent.
So thank you very much, Maharaj. So we really appreciate your time and patience and tolerating us. So we'll ask all the body to please submit themselves. Let us appreciate Maharaj by live Shanti One Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much.
His Grace Srivas Vanacary Maharaj Ki Jai.
Nobody.
Jai.